Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Shri Shri Pradlakshmi Simade Bhagavana Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Gaura Premanande Hari Bol. So first question, German or English? German, English, English, German, German. Du kannst leider nicht übersetzen. Kannst du übersetzen? Du bist nicht schlecht in der Übersetzung. Du hast noch nicht geübt, vielleicht. Okay. So, wie machen wir das? Unterweise mich bitte. Please instruct me. We have no translator. And two Mataji who speaking only German and one Mataji who speaking only English. So the solution would be... Kannst du ins Englische übersetzen? Nee, Björn ist angeschlagen. Das ist Nandala? Du kannst probieren. Okay, warte mal kurz. Ist dir lieber, wenn du ins Deutsche übersetzt? Weil mir ist lieber, wenn ich auf Englisch spreche. Das heißt, kannst du für Kishori und Eva, wie heißt sie jetzt? Devaki Mataji jetzt Englisch auf Deutsch? Ja, okay, machen wir so. Hier, du kriegst das heilige Buch. Kommt. Danke dir. You get double benefit now for hearing and chanting. This is okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 13, entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, verse number 24. Okay. Ya evam vitti purusham. Ya evam vitti purusham. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Sarvata vartamanopi. Sarvata vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Ya evam vitti purusham. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Sarvata vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Prabhus, please chant. Ya evam vitti purusham. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Ya evam vitti purusham. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Sarvata vartamanopi. Savyo vijayate. Matajis. Ya evam vitti purusham. Prakritim cha gunai saha. Sarvata vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Ya evam vitti purusham. Nasa bhuyo vijayate. Noch jemand? Somebody else? Okay. Ya, anyone who. Evam, thus. Vitti, understands. Purusham, the living entity. Prakritim, material nature. Cha, and. Gunai, the modes of material nature. Saha, with. Sarvatha, in all ways. Vartamanaha, being situated. Api, in spite of. Na, never. Sa, he. Bhuya, again. Abhijayate, takes his birth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vinata Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Prabhupada is already sleeping. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Purport. Clear understanding of material nature, the supersoul, the individual soul, and their interrelation makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to this material nature. This is the result of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to understand distinctly that the living entity has by chance fallen into this material existence. By his personal endeavor in association with the authorities, saintly persons, and the spiritual master, he has to understand his position and then revert to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is explained by the personality of Godhead. Then it is certain that he will never come again into this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Om Ajnanatirmandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay, one more time the verse. Ya evam vitti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvatha vartamanopi nasabhuyo hijayati. Just one thing to comment. It's really important to stress on the A, that it's a long A. You know, when you see there is a line above the letter A, then the alphabet A, then we should pronounce it like Sarvatha Vartamanopi. And the best example for this, because sometimes the meanings change, the best example is when we are singing every day, Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kotobi. So Yasya Prasadad, Yasya, by his, Prasadad, mercy. Bhagavat Prasado, one gets the mercy of Bhagavan. Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasadan. Yasya Prasad Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kotobi. So if you take it word for word, Yasya Aprasadan Nagati Kotobi. So Yasya Aprasadan, meaning without his mercy, there is no hope. You don't get any mercy. But if we say Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kotobi and we don't stress on the Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kotobi, it would mean like even without his mercy, you can get the mercy of the Lord, which is completely false and nonsense. So, but of course, luckily for us, we don't understand this fine differences in Sanskrit, so it doesn't matter, but it's still very important to pronounce them correctly. So Yasya Prasadan Nagati Kotobi means without his mercy, we cannot get anything. Okay, translation. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Srila Prabhupada ki. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo viti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti sorjuna. So Krishna is saying that if one knows my transcendental Jai Shri Shri, Prad Lakshmi Simhadev Bhagavan Ki. Good night, Nashingadev. If one understands my transcendental nature and activities, then he will give up this body. He will give up this body and the process of samsara, the birth and death, and he will, if he understands me, he will come back to me. What Krishna is saying here, that who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction, you can take my water because I'm not gonna drink. And the interaction between them, then he will attain liberation. So liberation is good enough, but what is saying here that who understand this, let's say the material nature of the living entity and their interaction will get liberation and never take birth again, regardless of his present situation. So what I want to talk about today actually is more material nature and the interaction that is happening between the modes of material nature. So we all know, of course, the modes of material nature. Bjorn got out his pen, ready to list them down. So we all know that Sattva gun, mode of goodness, Rajagun, mode of passion, and Tamagun is the mode of ignorance. And technically everything we see in this material world is consisted out of these three modes of material nature. So the example is given is like they are colors of red, yellow, and blue. And everything we see, actually the colors are a mix of these three colors, the three main colors. It's like when you're looking on a TV screen, all the colors you see, it's like I need to keep my head like this. Maybe wait, I sit like this. Because there's nobody there, so it doesn't make any sense. So, TV screen is like made of these three colors, red, yellow, and blue. And everything we see is a combination of these three colors. In the same way, everything we see here actually in this material world is a combination of the three moods. And what's most important for us as devotees or practitioners of Bhakti Yoga, we always stress on that we need to be in Sattva Gun and stay in Sattva Gun. It's, maybe I should say this at the very end, but Nandana? It's okay? Maybe sorry, I lost the point. It's stress for us to stay in the Sattva Gun, but what is worth mentioning that ultimately this Sattva Gun is also still part of the modes of material nature. And we want to get attached to Sattva Gun because we are affected by the lower modes of material nature. But ultimately our goal as transcendentalists is to transcend even the Sattva Gun. So when you get attached to Sattva Gun, and hopefully me also one day will get attached to Sattva Gun, we need to detach from them. I think this is the best on the board. Okay. Oh. Okay. So, Sattva. Everybody can see this? Sattva. Karma. Dharma. Okay, need to make it smaller now. Atma. Param. Atma. Param Atma. I've been preaching about long A, then I better know where is the long A. Yeah. And then Bhakti. Okay. So anybody knows what is this? Okay, it's simple. It's nothing special I'm going to say about this. Actually, I just wanted to see where is our level, let's say now, or where's the level of this lecture is going, and what is ultimately the goal. So Sattva Gun is one of the three gunas, right? So we have here rajas. Sattva means goodness. Huh? I don't know. Is it with two T's? Okay, then we do like this. Yeah, it's Latin letters. Okay, so this is here starts the material nature. We are affected by these three modes of material nature. And from sattva, how do we get to karma? I mean, what does it mean anyway to get to karma? So by sattva mode, actually, the knots of karma are actually being broken, right? So when we are in sattva gun, actually, we are conscious about what we are doing. And we are not affected by the lower modes of material nature, which are actually just bonding us more and more. Like bonding us, let's say, in an impious way. Impious, you say? In an impious way to the material world. But sattva gun isn't bonding us to the material world in a better way, but we know ultimately that it's a bridge to the next. So, and then karma, dharma, atma, paramatma, and bhakti. And knowledge goes through this way. We need to know these, the material nature, and then what is the duty. After this knowledge, we know what's actions we should do. And the dharma, what is the duty. Once you know the duty, or let's say the nature of the soul, of the atma, and relationship with paramatma, and after the paramatma realization, we get to the realization of Bhagavan, Bhakti. But luckily, we're not going to get in all of this. Okay, we're going to talk today about sattva with double T. Although I want to talk about sattva with T, one T. So, okay, I think I can sit down. So it's important to know that the modes of material nature, I mean, why is it difficult to get taste for sattva gun? Does anybody know? Like, why is it easier for us to stay in rajagun and tamagun? Yes, Bjorn? Yes, but can you understand the realization of God in sattva gun? Yeah. So yeah, sattva gun is like a bridge, you can say, to the transcendental realm, to the Shuddha Sattva. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the taste we get of Rajagun, or the enjoyment we get of Rajagun, is immediate, okay? So if we do something in the mode of passion, you immediately get the taste and the results. But if you do something in the Sattva gun, then you don't get immediately the enjoyment. And it needs some time, actually, until you get this enjoyment. So these three modes of material nature are like, you can say, bank balances. And we need to learn how to invest in sattva gun. So wherever you invest your energy, wherever invest means attachment. That's what I mean. So wherever you invest your energy, you get attachment to that certain mode of material nature. If you practice activities in the mode of goodness in sattva gun, then gradually you will build up the taste for this mode. For tamagun, I remember when we used to have summer holidays, after the school finishes, and hooray, you don't have to wake up early anymore. And then first day, you can sleep until 8 o'clock, second day until 8:30, and then it goes on until, before you know it, you sleep until 12 o'clock, noon time. Because gradually, we developed the taste more for tamagun. You see, it's easy then to sleep 10 and 12 hours. And the same thing with rajagun also. And sattva gun, it just takes really consistency until we develop a taste for it. So, so the nature of the mind, surprisingly speaking, and we know this also from Kapila Dev, that the mind is in sattva gun, believe it or not. And if it's a natural state, if the original state of the mind is in sattva gun, then the question may arise, then why are we so attached to rajagun and tamagun? Or the better question is, why isn't it easy to get it back to its natural state, which is sattva gun? And sattva gun means patience, satisfaction, calm, and anything else. If you don't have these symptoms of patience, steadiness and calmness, then you know that if you're impatient, then you're in rajagun. So if the process of the degradation of the mind is actually very very interesting, and we all have practical experience of it. So let's assume the original state of the sattva gun, but it is said that gradually the mind somehow loses the taste for this sattva gun, and he wants more excitement. So we know like certain activities that you may have taste for in sattva gun, waking up early, doing your sadhana, doing your daily program, breakfast, and so on and so forth. I'm not even talking now about spiritual activities, but gradually we lose the taste for this and we want something more exciting. The reason for losing the taste actually for activities in sattva gun is because we become familiar and we start doing things mechanically. So when we are doing things mechanically, inattentive, then at some point we think, okay, what do I need to do? I need more action, I need more excitement, so we get to rajagun. And from rajagun, you get the taste, you get the juice, and you start performing activities that are consuming your energy and getting you a lot of sense enjoyment. We perceive the words with our eyes, ears, so we start getting these different enjoyments in rajagun. And after some time, because you're running around like a maniac, getting this satisfaction, you lose energy and you want to rest. So you go to sleep, the natural thing, or you go to eat a lot because you're in rajagun, right? And then afterwards you go to sleep for a sufficient period until you little bit charge up. But even when you wake up, you're still in tamagun. And I'm not talking about a daily schedule. I'm talking also about a long period, like a long routine. So people, not devotees, they start to take substances to get out of this tamagun. They want more energy. Drink a cup of coffee. Coffee is the most innocent example. And then they raise themselves from this tamagun to rajagun. And so on the cycle goes. From rajagun to tamagun, and then recharge back to rajagun, and some people never make it to go to sattva gun. And this is actually the rhythm of the world, actually, if you see it. Wake up every day, just run, running, immediately go brush teeth, take a shower if anyway, and eat something on the way to work and work like an ass, and then afterwards eat something while walking in the break and coming back and running the 5 days a week, and then eventually the weekend comes and they can shut down because they are exhausted from these 5 days a week of complete energy exhaustion. They go down to tamagun, and comes the weekend, party, take substances, boom, fall down, and then come back again, start this. So it's just a hectic tempo, a hectic timing that we are going through. We're not, obviously, lucky us living in Simachalam. But this is the idea, this is the degradation of consciousness, saying from sattva-gun to tamagun. So the main thing is we said to attach to sattva-gun. The main thing is actually to get attachment for God, for Krishna. But because we don't have it now in a natural way, first we need to get attached to sattva-gun, and from that platform, by getting attached to sattva-gun, we try to raise this attachment to God. So what can else be said about sattva-gun? Everything we are wearing, the atmosphere, the environment, the weather, the music we hear, it can be in the three modes of material nature, the air we breathe, the water is a very important factor, the food we consume also. So how actually we develop this this healthy sattva gun, which will lead us ultimately to remember Krishna, which is our goal, to remember Krishna, is, you can say, through sadhana. And sadhana is giving us actually physical and mental clarity through food and through water, actually. So these things we consume, they are mainly building up our consciousness building up the consciousness to either remain in sattva or not. So, for example, sadhana, like we said, the cleanliness. Why is it so difficult to understand like how this cleanliness, we are saying either internal or external, is actually bringing us to remembrance of God? Because the purpose actually of all these subtleties that we want to clear our mind, and when the mind is clear, then this remembrance can happen naturally. So actually all of the purpose of our routine, waking up early, taking bath in the early morning, and so on and so forth, is to remain in this, is to clear our mind. So yoga means actually mind, means controlling the mind. So, and through food also is affected by the consciousness of the cook and of the consciousness of the consumer, the one who eats it. So, and of the water also can be in three modes. Like the worst is bottled water. So bottled water is known to be in tamagun, and the flowing water, the water that is flowing in a natural flow, it's most nourished, full with prana. And this is like a sattvic water. Actually, what we have here is groundwater, came from the mountains, and it's very sattvic, full of prana. One interesting thing I heard that the food we consume is made of three parts. The way it's digested, it goes into three parts. So the most gross part of the food is obviously going out of the body, poop. And then the middle gross, like between the gross and the subtle part of the food, is going to the blood. To the muscles. It's going to the muscles, nourishing the muscles. And the most subtle part of food is going to the mind, to the brain, nourishing the brain. So it's either going out of the body, or it's nourishing the muscles, or it's nourishing the brain. And the same thing for water. The most gross part of water is leaving the body in urine. And the middle part, let's say the middle gross or middle subtle part, is going to the blood, nourishing the blood. And the subtle part of water, when we drink water, is going to prana, to the air of life. So we can understand this, what is the effect of food and water in our consciousness. Okay. So back to sadhana, we know how important it is to develop a good sadhana, but it's also very important to understand that actually sadhana is not the thing which bhakti is dependent on. So we're not going to develop bhakti. So better said, sadhana is not the cause of bhakti. The mercy is the cause of bhakti. So sadhana is preparing our hearts actually to receive a mercy. The example is given that you can imagine our hearts is like a cup of water. And imagine that you're standing under a waterfall and you want to catch as much water as possible with this cup of water. So in the same way, actually, our consciousness and our hearts are so shrinked, you can say. And by sadhana, by conscious spiritual activities, this expansion happens to our consciousness and to our hearts, that we can actually be recipient, you say in English? Can be as much as possible receptive of the mercy. So this is one thing important to know. And the more we go on with the process, the difficult it becomes to develop the taste. And I'm now still talking on a material platform, that it's very easy to get taste from Rajagun, like we said, but to get to Sattvagun, it's a little bit more difficult to get the taste out of it. And the further you go, the more conscious efforts you need to put in order to get the taste out of it. It's like, imagine, I don't know if any of you did it before, video games. If you play a video game, then like from level 1 until level 25. To get from level 1 to level 2, you just maybe need 10 points of experience. And to get from level 2 to level 3, you need like 30 points. And then you need 100. And then you need 1,000. And then the last point, like the last levels, you get to the final boss and so on. You need thousands of points until you just get one level more. So, yeah, forgive me for the mundane analogy, but it's like this. The further we go to in Sattvagun and we want to develop taste for the spiritual practice, the more difficult it becomes to some extent. To some extent, it's easy because you are not struggling by waking up early anymore and chanting your 16 rounds. It becomes something easy. After a long time, depends on the conscience of the practitioner. But in another sense, you cannot just do it automatically, mechanically, and it will happen on its own. And there's a nice, three conditions that needs to be met in order to develop taste for the practice. So the first one is steadiness. Stetigkeit, yeah. And which means repetition. Repetition actually means, japa means repetition. And we know what steadiness means. Like you do it every day in the same time. Every day, non-stop, with steadiness and determination. And the second one is artha. Artha means meaning, in this context at least. So we know the meaning and the depth of the practice that we are doing. And now I'm not talking only about chanting the holy name, but if you're understanding it in this way, that it's about, if you want to apply it on the chanting process, chanting practice, then it's also very good, applicable. So the first one is steadiness, repetition. The second one is artha, meaning or depth, to meditate on the meaning of for example, the Maha Mantra. And the last one is bhavana, which means emotion. So this is like the last step, final stage, that we need to develop bhava. You need to develop emotion in the practice. And yeah, ultimately the bhavana, the emotion, comes when the first 2 points, namely steadiness, repetition, and artha, the meditating on the meaning. Then if we go these 2 points, then automatically bhava will come. Pure. Huh? Emotion? Auf Deutsch oder? Emotion, ja, Gefühl. Emotion. Emotion. Emovere, they say in the Latin root, which means movement. Emotion sagt man auch auf Deutsch. The Latin root is emovere. And emovere means movement. So when you have an emotion, you feel a movement in your heart, right? There's something moving, and this is the root of the English word emotion, emovere. Okay, yeah, I don't want to talk so long. It's a lot of theory and maybe some question, or yeah. Emotion. Okay. You see, if you chant with emotion, now I'm back to the chanting. If you chant with emotion, then it is already implied that you have done your practice in steadiness and with understanding, with knowledge about the practice. So it's just one point that I mentioned on the side, that the emotion, it's not something you force. Like Hare Krishna, you know, sometimes some devotees try to, to pull down the love of Godhead in their japa and by endeavoring so much, but endeavoring to stand steadily is good. To chant with a meaning, to understanding of the meaning is good, but you can get to that stage. And then if you have some, some emotion in your heart, then try to give it to Krishna. Otherwise, leave it for him, that the emotion pops out of our heart. Yeah, otherwise, if there is no meditation on the meaning, it just becomes a ritual, Ritual in Sanskrit, the word for ritual is ritam, R-T-A-M. And ritam means ritual, or it means also rhythm. So this ritual, quote unquote ritual we are doing, it's actually, the sadhana is actually like synchronizing us or tuning us to the rhythm, to the universal rhythm, because our minds, our environment, this material world has a certain rhythm actually. And by practicing these so-called rituals or sadhana, it's actually the purpose that we are tuning actually ourselves. We are tuning our consciousness to the spiritual consciousness, to the universal rhythm, you can call it. Rhythm. Okay, some questions? To develop taste, to get taste for the practice. Yeah. Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhu.